Hello, Comp One. Listening to some medieval music here, which I bet some of you find pretty weird, but it makes me calm. Well, it's deer hunting season, and most of my friends are out there in the woods trying to get a deer. And I'm not among them. I'm not a hunter. I don't have very many hobbies, like I told you in another video. One of my main hobbies is to sit in this guest house on the weekends, or like on this Monday afternoon, and watch people think. And I've been thinking about journals today, and the journals that you're keeping. Piled here are, I don't know how many, 60, 70, 80 journals from 3 different groups of students that I'm serving right now. My Comp 1 students, there's 3 sections of those people, my 8 o'clock people as I call them, my 9:30 people, and you, my online students. We also have my film studies group in here. We meet at 11:30, Tuesdays and Thursdays, at Central Lakes College. And there's also a little pile here from my part-time job at the College of St. Benedict, my Johnnies and Bennies, just 16 of those. What I'm thinking about today are a few things. I want to talk to you about audience considerations and the idea of writing for the future, for people who might not be me. And I just want to talk to you about a couple of things related to that. I think about writers all the time and readers all the time. And my online students probably deserve to know that one of my obsessions involves the idea of people that are in literature that either pick up pens or pick up books and read them. It's actually something that I just can't resist studying. And there's endless examples of it in literature. We could think of Don Quixote. He was harmed by literature. He read so many medieval romances, he went out of his mind. We could think of Madame Bovary and Edna Pontellier and The Awakening. They did the same thing. They read a whole bunch of romances, and it pretty much did them harm. I'm also really interested in people that are in stories, people that are in literature, that pick up pens and begin to write. Think about that a little bit. Think about Hamlet. Twice in that famous play, he picks up a pen and changes and affects reality. We have the moment, maybe you read it in high school, where he picks up a pen and he changes the orders of the king, right, to make him make sure that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern die instead of him. We also have the moment in Hamlet where he picks up a pen and rewrites a play to make the king go crazy. Think about that for a minute. Hamlet is in something written, and he's writing, even though we are reading him. It's kind of like when you were a little kid, when you went into the bathroom and held up a mirror to the mirror, and it would go infinitely. I think about stuff like this all the time. I find it interesting. Now, what I'm mainly focusing on here is the fate of these paper journals in comparison with your journals, which are online, right? They're not even piled here, but I just got done reading them, so I know they're there. I'm thinking of this. I was a year ago, I was at St. Cloud State, and I was ending a class, and I told all these students, I said, hey, why don't you save these notebooks? Put them somewhere in your piling system. There might come a time, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, where you might want to pick these up and find out about what you were reading and thinking about and wondering about in the fall of 2010. I said to them, when you leave this classroom, if you're going to throw them away, please don't do it in my presence. That'll be heartbreaking. And I'm not going to forget this anytime soon. They got up, it was the end of the period, they're skipping off joyfully, and this young woman, the minute she got to the door, she took her journal and just did this frisbee thing right into the garbage can. I stood there just thinking, OMG, did you seriously do that? Did you just throw away 4 or 5 months of your thinking into the trash? Ouch, But, it was her prose, and that's the fate that it meant. One of the last flies of the year are in here driving me nuts. And that makes me think of Emily Dickinson, that poem, Heard a Fly Buzz When I Died. Maybe I am talking about death here. These journals may end up like that. They may end up somewhere, but and never be read again. But let's think in this way. In the world of school, we write for teachers. That's not that interesting. Students write for teachers. We read writing, we read journals, we read remarks, and we give them back to you. These journals may disappear, and I know that might be the idea, but your journals online might have a different kind of fate. Maybe other people will read them. Maybe your ancestors will read them. I want to show you some photographs. Have a look at these. I was at a barn sale about 2 weeks ago. I left Central Lakes College and I headed down here to my house, and I saw a sign that said barn sale. Usually you go there and it's just like the same stuff all the time, right? You know what I'm talking about. But sometimes you find treasures, and I'll splice these into the video so you can see them close up. But it's really astonishing to me how often I've taken these photographs out in the last couple weeks, 3 weeks that I've had them. I take them out at night and I stare at them and I wonder about these people. And I wonder about them as human beings. What were their lives like? This is almost 100 years ago. What did they do for a living? Were they happy? What was their destiny? What was the meaning of their lives? But I also think, what kinds of things did these people write? 2 of these photographs that I'm processing value are photographs of reverends. What happened to all the sermons that they wrote? Where are they? These appear to be educated people. They must have gone to school. They probably wrote essays. They must have written all kinds of letters too. Happy letters, salutation letters, Christmas cards, maybe a love letter or two. Where is all that paper? It's probably just vanished, just like them. The woman who was sitting in the barn, when I asked her, who are these people? She said, no one knows. She had the hope that people would just stop by and pick up the photographs and say, well, I'm related to so-and-so, but here's what's cool. These are probably, it's not impossible that there are people at Central Lakes College that are the descendants of these people. And I just love, it's how we go on. I just love the idea of that. But what I'm interested in is the idea that maybe in the next few weeks, you can imagine writing for me in the last 6 weeks or whatever we have of this course. I'll give you a prompt in the journal and you'll write to it, and I'll give you an essay intention and you'll write to it. But maybe you could start to think about the idea of writing for a larger audience. For maybe many of you have children. Maybe someday those children of yours will pick up your prose and read it. Maybe they'll find it on the hard drive of some computer, printed, stacked in a library somewhere, or in your house, wherever you put things. I've only written one book in my life, this little memoir that I wrote a couple years ago to finally get my master's degree in English. Well, my son, for instance, the 17-year-old running this camera, he knows me pretty well. If something happens to me, if I go the way of all English majors this particular week, he knows me pretty well. We spend a lot of time together. Well, what about his son? What about his daughter? What about his children and their children? Do you think they might just be a day where they want to wonder about and learn about me or who I am? Maybe the answer is no. Maybe this will just sit on a shelf like all the books of the world and gather dust like these photographs. But and maybe it is the idea to disappear, to sort of move into the great beyond. But I do know that if you don't write things down, you will be forgotten. Speaking of writing, just move to one other topic, and I hope you just give some thought to that when you do this week's journals. Yeah, answer my question, think about writing to me, but imagine who else might be picking that prose up someday. We have no idea. It could happen. I also want to bring to your attention this week that it's the time of the semester where I'm going to invite you to read a novel. I almost said write a novel, but that would be a pretty big assignment. I'd like you to read a novel. I'd like you to read, in about the next week and a half, the novel that I picked out for you. That's Scott Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby. A number of you probably read it in high school. It's what we call a great American novel, written back in the 20s by one of us, Scott Fitzgerald, who grew up on Summit Avenue in St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah, he left when he was 18 and he never turned his back, but he left behind a shelf of books, and I'd like you to read one of them. There's several reasons I'd like you to read that novel in the next week and a half. Number one, we at Central Lakes College like to have literature be part of our Comp 1s and our Comp 2s. The dean really is happy about that, and I want to make the dean happy. I love literature. We do that because we don't want to separate reading processes and writing processes, It's a two-edged sword, like I've said to you many times. You've got to structure your consciousness with language and reading in order to be able to be a writer. We also study literary forms because great writers can be a better teacher than I could ever be for you. There are probably more lessons on the first page of The Great Gatsby than I can offer you in 40, 50 videos, however many we get up here to before the snow flies, as we say down here in Stearns County. I also want want to submit to you the idea that I feel a tremendous kinship with all of the people who have taught rhetoric throughout the centuries. That's why I just found this baby. Look at this puppy, Medieval Grammar and Rhetoric. I just found this at the St. John's Library. It's thick and gorgeous. I don't have time to read it till Christmas, but man, I'm happy to see this brand new book. I feel a kinship with medieval rhetoricians and medieval teachers. Back then, courses that were about literacy or about rhetoric were definitely involved and preoccupied with studying literary forms. And the reason for that is that in the reading of a text, in the studying of a text, you don't just learn about that text. You will learn how to approach and read and discern and interpret other texts. So if you read The Great Gatsby carefully in the next week and a half, and I got all kinds of things to tell you about it and Fitzgerald, and we got some more lessons coming up on style here. It's going to be more than an exercise in reading Fitzgerald and reading the Gatsby. You can turn and use the faculties and skills that you acquired in the studying of that book when you approach other books. And when you pick it up, you're going to find yourself in the presence of a narrator named Nick Carraway, who's going to tell you a crazy story about this millionaire that he lives next to named Jay Gatsby. In some senses, that book has the elements of memoir too. He's writing from a memoir. He's got some things to tell you. And what I would do if I were you tonight, turn off that annoying television. It's full of lies and commercials. Get a fire going if you got a fire. If you don't have a fire going, like I will in a little while here, just draw a picture of a fire. It'll be a comfort. Feed those kids if you got kids. And curl up with a good book. Try a couple of chapters. And, thanks for listening to me.